To reach the areas in need, this would cover over 1,500 animals. They would receive spay, neuter, and microchip. And that the 19,000, the past funding level, is exhausted within 3 months usually. Economic Development Department. The Sports Commission asked for an increase in funding of $30,000, so this would increase to 130 from our previous 100,000. You had asked about the city of Waco and what they had funded and what they planned on funding. They have always contributed 75,000, and of course their budget is not adopted yet either, but the plan is that they would continue the $75,000 level of funding into next year. Stay on our timeline. Those letters need to go out from the judge's office today. So I just wanted to just come back here and just make sure, that we all knew what those ending numbers look like. Everyone has received a COLA on this list. So the right side is just what our fiscal year 22 elected official salaries look like. Some of the judges are, the COLA doesn't apply to them because those numbers are set a different way. But the ones that are highlighted in yellow, those were the amounts that Anna spoke on and recommended moving those up to a certain level. And then, of course, the COLA is added on top of that. So I just wanted to just make sure that we were all still, agreeable to those amounts, just because those letters do need to go out today. And we hadn't really
The
looked at.
adjustments came in the highlighted yellow,
Yes, sir.
and that was due to the fact that they were out of our criterion.
Yes. Yes. So you brought those up.
Between now and the final adoption, which is August the 24th, we will come back and talk about the disposition of any of the funds that are over and above the policy of our unassigned fund balance policy of 33%, and how we, if we choose to apply any of those towards things. And one of the, one item was on our retirement debt. It looks like there's about a little over $90,000. For every $1 million we pay down on that debt, there's a little over 90,000 and some change.
Correct. So
Savings that goes up over time if salaries are adjusted up.
that's correct. So yeah, those paying in $1 million or whatever the amount may be is going to affect of course, you're going to be out that cash for the year to pay down that debt, but then it's going to affect your retirement rate also.
Right.
So
And the cash position that we're in because of the rate environment.
So we have received, of course, the certified values and then the new calculations of the tax rate. We'll share our screen here. This updated spreadsheet is, of course, on the budget workshop drive today, unfortunately. But that one is just one that's there. We've had questions, and we can always adjust as more information comes in.
Good.
The other ones that we'll need to come back to in this department are the MHMR contracts. And then, of course, those will come in for your review in this next month. The animal birth control clinic. So they increased their ask this year to that 125,000. You had questions about what the city was contributing to ABC. And so what we have found out, they currently and have for some years now, their budget is 166,000. Theirs is a little bit different than ours. So what's happening there is they budget, and then they have an agreement with, of course, with ABC, and they're being billed per instance per surgery and microchip. And so theirs, they've budgeted 166 for a while, but from what I gathered, it's just a flat rate that has been sufficient to cover the amount that's billed to them monthly. So they have not adjusted that for a while, but it's, again, just based on how many instances they are actually billing for.
So that's a little different than our arrangement where we're just giving them flat money to do whatever they.
To cover the areas outside outside the incorporated cities, yes, sir. So with the 125,000, it's just down at the bottom of perfect. That section there She says that, to reach the areas.
I'm gonna do some housekeeping over here. Got stuff piled up everywhere.
Did you see this down? Yes. The home in Lincoln Rock. You sent that to me. You sent that to me. That's. Oh, they're gonna come calling.
Otherwise, I'd say yes.
So we gotta know he and Mac are already in discussion.
Yeah.
Raise and extension.
Yeah.
They're gonna come calling.
Yeah.
You saw him, did you meet that fire their coach overnight?
Oh, they did?
Justin Fuente got fired.
Really? He was a hot name for a while.
He was on the list when they
Here?
hired Randall.
Oh, really?
He felt like he had a national championship team that he was a year or two away from.
So, did you see where Washington? I mean, that's a pretty prestigious program. So where is Orlando from originally? Is it California?
Arizona.
Arizona.
The only thing, the reasons he came to Baylor, he would never go to the West Coast.
Oh, really?
But he came to Baylor. He said he didn't enjoy being in Louisiana at a state school where he couldn't practice his faith.
Oh, yeah.
He said,
He wouldn't be able to do that in Washington.
Recording in progress.
let's see.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Let's call court to order. Today is Tuesday, November the 16th, 2021. It's 9 a.m. Proof of posting, please.
The agenda was posted on Friday, November 12th, 2021 at 4 p.m.
Thank you. Let's rise momentarily for a moment of silence, and then we'll have the pledge to the flags.
Yes, please join me in the pledge. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the Texas pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Steve.
Yes, sir.
Okay, at this time, if there's any public comments, please come forward at this time. Seeing none, we'll go to item number D under proclamations. Let's see, this is a resolution supporting the extension of the delivery system reform incentive payment, or DSRIP program through September 30th, 2022. Dustin or Heather?
Yes, sir. And Judge, I believe Heather is going to present this, and then we can help answer any questions.
All right, thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
As you know, following the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services withdrawal of the 10-year 1115 Medicaid waiver extension on April 16th, 2021, Texas Council has remained highly engaged in discussions with state leaders and other stakeholders, and several county commissioners' courts are in the process or have already passed local resolutions expressing concerns about the 1115 waiver extension withdrawal and a desire for state and federal leaders to reach an agreement on the solution. What we have is an attached draft that can be modified if there's anything within it that you guys see fit to change. But this is a resolution of the McLennan County Commissioners Court supporting the extension of the Delivery System Reform Incentive Payment District Program through September 30th, 2022. Whereas in December 2011, the U.S. Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services approved a 5-year healthcare funding program through the 1115 waiver and extended it for an additional 5-year period in December 2017. And whereas that approved program included the DSRIP program that used regional partnerships to enhance healthcare options for uninsured Texans and expand access to care for McLennan County residents. And whereas McLennan County benefited immensely from that district program through healthcare provided by the Heart of Texas Region MHMR Center, Ascension Providence Hospital, and Hillcrest Baptist Medical Center, utilizing more than $100 million in federal funds since the program's inception. These funds were used to meet the healthcare needs of McLennan County residents, provide timely services, and reach our most vulnerable residents. And whereas in January 2021, CMS approved a 10-year, $100 billion, 1115 waiver extension that transitioned the district program into a new public health care program, Charity Care Pool, and directed payment programs for mental health resources. And whereas on April 16th, 2021, the CMS rescinded that 1115 waiver, leaving the previous waiver in effect until its expiration on September 30th, 2022. And the district program did expire on September 30th, 2021. And whereas if the district program is not extended to September 30th, 2022, or the district transition program included in the now rescinded 1115 waiver approved, McLennan County will lose more than $16 million in healthcare and mental health support funding. So therefore, be it resolved by the Commissioners Court of McLennan County that the McLennan County Commissioners Court encourages the Department of Health and Human Services and CMS to expeditiously approve an extension of the district program to at least September 30th, 2022. The McLennan County Commissioners Court encourages the Texas Health and Human Services Commission to quickly negotiate with CMS to extend the district program to at least, again, September 30th, 2022, or seek an alternative structure that will allow the programs currently authorized by district in McLennan County to continue unabated. The McLennan County Commissioners Court requests that the Texas legislature make available contingency funds to replace those lost by the expiration of the district program if CMS does not approve an extension of the district program or authorize an alternative program that will allow existing district programs to continue. And lastly, the McLennan County Commissioners Court requests the state of Texas and the Biden administration work collaboratively for a speedy resolution to the district program expiration and 1115 waiver extension to ensure uninterrupted and much needed health care and mental health funding for McLennan County residents continue.
Okay.
That was a mouthful.
Any questions or any comments? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
Move. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Oppose? Pass. Thank you. All right. Going to, we have several people to give reports that we want to move to the front of the court to be able to get those dealt with and let them get back to work. So I think first, under M18, discussion or action on matter regarding COVID. Elizabeth, are you on?
All right. Good morning, everyone.
One.
I just wanted to remind everyone with the court that the Waco Regional Infusion Center, the last day of operation is slated for November 25th. That is Thanksgiving, so it may actually end up being the 24th, but the state has made the decision to shut down the Regional Infusion Center over at the TSTC campus.
And the hospitals will pick up that, they will do infusions at their hospitals, right?
Yes, sir. They will do those at their respective facilities.
Right, so the citizens will still have an opportunity if needed and the doctors prescribe it to go
Yes,
to the
sir.
hospital for infusion, okay?
When did she say that's closing?
Think the day before Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
Okay,
slated to be
24th.
closed the 25th, but I don't know if they realize that that's Thanksgiving Day. So, and I believe campus is closed on the 25th, so it's likely going to be the 24th.
It's still gonna be free at the hospitals?
I'm not sure, I think it's free, but I'm not sure.
It's, yes, it's a federal program.
Oh, okay, so just relocating into the different hospital systems from
Right.
our infusion center at TSTC, it's just relocating?
Well, it was set up as an additional option for infusion. The hospitals were still doing them. And so now the amount of activity at the infusion centers dropped down so low that it's really not feasible to keep it open when there's other options for the citizens to go to.
And I can see that. I guess my only question would be, like with us being insured, so if we needed the infusion treatment, we could go to one of the hospitals with insurance. But if you don't have insurance or a primary care physician, and I know that's a low number of people, but is there still a door that's open for those people?
It's my understanding that's right, but
Okay.
we can call the public health district.
Okay.
Get clarification on that. Okay. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, I'd like to go to F2G, Greater Waco Chamber of Commerce discussion or action regarding the In Waco Digital Talent Recruitment Campaign funding request. So if y'all come forward.
Morning.
Good morning. Morning.
Morning, Commissioners.
Thank you.
You on today? Thanks.
Okay, appreciate y'all coming, and pitch till you win.
Judge, Commissioners, thank you so much for allowing us to join you folks this morning to talk about the In Waco Digital Talent Recruitment Initiative with the Greater Waco Chamber of Commerce. We've been working on it for some months now. To my immediate right is Jennifer Branch, and Jennifer leads the Chamber's Talent and Workforce Initiatives. And to my far right is Chris Collins, who's our Senior Vice President for Economic Development. And I'm Matt Metters, I'm the President and CEO of the Greater Waco Chamber. So thank you again for allowing us to join you. We're going to start with Chris. Chris is going to kind of set the table, if you will, in relationship to the need for the In Waco Digital Talent Recruitment Initiative we're talking about. Chris?
Well, good morning, Commissioners and Judge. Thank you very much for having us with you. One of the things that we've heard from employers for quite some time now is regarding the need for workers, and especially over the last 18 to 24 months with the impacts of COVID, that need has only accelerated. And what we're hearing is a definite need for talent. And what we put together this morning for your consideration is 6 months of work coming up with a digital marketing campaign that really is about driving people from outside of the community into the Waco market. You heard last court session from TSCC, from their regents, and from Edgar Padilla and Jeff Kilgore about a training center, industrial technology training center specifically for developing out and upskilling individuals into positions. This is different from that. We are all working together to help tackle this issue because we realize how imperative it is for our existing employers and our ability to attract new industry into the marketplace. But this is not about training individuals that are within our community. This is about helping to attract people that already have a skill set into our marketplace to help also fill jobs that are available within our community.
Great, Chris, thank you. So if you look at the first slide, if you will, in your packet, it says Greater Waco employers need talented people not currently in the area, which is what Chris just indicated to you. There are 3 squares there, if you will. Is that better? Can you hear me? There are 3 squares there. One talks about remote workers. That's an important part of this initiative that we're looking at broadly as an organization, but that's not what we're here to talk to you about today. There is an initiative wrapped around remote workers that's beginning to emerge, and we'll all have an opportunity to learn more about that in the future. Obviously, it's very important for us to focus on our existing workforce, and there's a lot of work and a lot of infrastructure wrapped around our existing workforce. But today we wanted to talk to you about recruiting talent into our marketplace. And again, as Chris indicated, it's a real imperative for us right now. Our economy, we've been very blessed. We're growing rapidly. Our economy is very diverse. But we're hearing from our employers almost to the individuals, not almost, just about every individual we talk to when we go out and talk to them. And Jennifer is primarily responsible for our business retention expansion work. Virtually every employer is saying we really need help on the talent side. So that really became the genesis for this in Waco Digital Talent Recruitment Initiative. So if you look to the second page in your packet, there's a snapshot there that shows you what an NWaco website is going to look like. We have the NWaco website fully developed. It's getting ready to be launched. It'll be launched in unison with the Digital Talent Recruitment Initiative that we're talking about. And so it is in the bullpen, if you will, and ready to go. The idea behind that website's going to play a central role. It's going to be front and center in terms of individuals who respond to this campaign. We're going to drive them into the website, and this is designed to give you a little bit of an example of what the feel and the fabric of that website's going to look like. So you'll see an opportunity to find a new you in Waco, an opportunity to work in Waco. There are different themes, if you will, that are going to be part of the messaging that's going to be a component to this overall talent recruitment initiative. But the essence of it is live, work, learn, and play in Waco. And the NWaco, the thinking behind NWaco is that you can put just about any word in front of NWaco and it makes sense. You can live in Waco, play in Waco, you can learn in Waco, et cetera. But this is designed to give you a little bit of a feel for what the NWaco website is going to look like. On the next page, you'll see additional information that also underscores or illustrates what that NWaco website is going to look like. So on the left-hand side, again, from the quality of life standpoint, you'll see there's plenty to do in Waco. We talk about food and drink, the great outdoors, music and arts, and so forth. On the right-hand side, you'll see there are industry sectors there, and those sectors align well with your chamber's economic development strategic plan. And in the center, we've kind of lifted that up to give you another illustration about working in Waco. An important component of the NWaco website is it's going to be a location where employers can come in and they can post information about positions, where individuals who are wanting to work in our marketplace can come in and they can post resumes. So it's going to be a dynamic website from that perspective. Down at the bottom, it's important for me to point out to you, you'll see that we've shown, again, for illustration purposes, L3Harris, SpaceX, and Caterpillar. And when we get a little bit deeper into the presentation, we're going to talk about funding, and we're here to ask you folks to come up alongside us and help us capitalize or fund this initiative. But it's important to point out that we're also going to be asking the private sector to come up alongside us as well. It's really going to take public sector, private sector, your chamber, as many sources as we can to be able to garner the resources that we need to be able to bring this to fruition, if you will. And so just yesterday, we had a series of briefings with the private sector. We had a number of employers in the Chamber's main conference room where we were talking about this initiative. And the idea behind bringing the employers into the fold or active in the space is that when we begin the communications externally in terms of trying to go after certain targeted individuals with certain targeted skill sets, these companies, should they decide to also become investors, will be able to have information on their companies as part of that messaging. So there will be general messaging that talks about quality of life. There will be messaging specific to three industries, or not industry sectors, but three job sectors, if you will, or profession sectors, and we'll talk about those in a moment. And then there will be information that will be specific to these companies that decide to be investors. And will drive respondents to those companies as well. Driving respondents to the NWaco website, driving respondents to those companies that are also coming up alongside us. But I want to make sure you understand, this is not just for those companies. It's for all of our companies. Right. But we do have three focused sectors that we're going after, or job types that we're going after. On the next page, and this is an important part of it, this really spells out the initiative for you. The next page shows you that this is going to be a data-driven strategy. And we have been involved in this and analyzing this for probably 6 months. We've talked to potential vendors. We've looked at best practices around the country. So this has been a very thoughtful and pretty in-depth analysis to get to where we are today. But this is a snapshot of what this initiative looks like. A data-driven strategy. We're going to have data mining. This is very important, and that's finding the individuals, the workers, based on characteristics and how to best reach them. There's going to be creative involved, so we're going to have creative communication or marketing pieces that are designed to go out and will be placed in front of these individuals. And these individuals, again, there will be a sizable number of them in our marketplace here in Texas, but it's also going to be national in scope. And then placement, again, the placement is going to be strategic ad placement to reach a desired audience. So you have data mining, creative placement, you have measurement. We have to be able to measure the effectiveness of this campaign, and so we're in a position to do that. And then you have administration. Again, it's a data-driven strategy. On the next page, and we put this in here not to give you migraine, but it has a bit of a tendency maybe to do that. This snapshot is really designed to show you what the campaign will look like. So if you go across the top, it's a 12-month campaign, and there are 12 months outlined at the top of that snapshot. If you go down the left-hand side, you'll see the first 4 boxes talk about quality of life. So this campaign is going to have a heavy quality of life component to it. So once we get dialed in on our targeted audiences, we're going to be communicating with them digitally in terms of the quality of life aspects of being in this part of Texas and being in Waco and being in McLennan County. And that's going to be an important component of this. And that's going to have broad positive impacts too. So we're going after 3 specific targeted job types, if you will, professions, but more broadly, others will also have an opportunity there will be other impacts in terms of the quality of life. And that quality of life communication is going to play an important role of helping these individuals understand why they should give consideration to this marketplace. Then on the bottom left-hand side, you'll see that there are 3 professions there. So we're looking at engineers, we're looking at industrial technicians, and we're looking at allied health professionals. Those are the 3 targets, if you will, in terms of professions that we're initially going to try to get dialed into, to identify and communicate with, and try to bring them into our marketplace. And within those sectors, there are a lot of occupation codes, and as you would expect, we have reduced those occupation codes to where they make the most sense related to our economy and our employers. So heavy on the quality of life, and then the 3 targeted professions that we're going after.
Matt, can I interject
please
for
do.
just a second? One of the things that we've heard from human resource professionals within the community is that there's not a centralized place as they are talking to recruits where they can showcase a lot about the community in one location. So they usually have to send people to 5 or 6 different websites to really talk about what is it like to live in this region. And the idea behind the In Waco site is that it becomes centralized for our purposes in this campaign, but it also becomes a resource that human resource professionals can utilize in their day-to-day operations as they're too working to recruit new people into the marketplace. And the high focus on quality of life is really important because now people are making decisions on where to work based off of place. It's not just about the job. They want to make sure that the community is a place where they will feel welcomed, where they can call home, and they want to see all aspects of it so that they feel like they're making the right choice for their own private lives, not just their professional lives. So that's one of the reasons why we have this really strong focus on quality of life, and that the messaging throughout the campaign will change based off of the audience. So we'll keep it fresh so it's not the same advertisement that individual seeing different aspects about the community through that quality of life and through employment opportunities, but that it will be, it will evolve during the year too. So I want to just clarify that a little.
So I guess a lot of the folks in this target area are at that time in their life where they're pretty mobile too, so it's easier for them to pick up and go where they want to work.
Correct.
Yeah, that's correct, Judge. If you look at the partners that we're looking at working with, again, we talk about characteristics. We can give those partners specific information. So we're going to say we're looking at industrial technicians and these types of industrial technicians, but we can age band that. You know, the information's available to us. We can get it dialed in so that we know that these are the folks most likely or most mobile, if you will, or most likely to come into our marketplace and work for our companies.
What is an industrial technician?
It's a fancy word for industrial maintenance.
It's a
So
Manufacturing?
for manufacturing, it's for facilities, maintenance. Terminology for jobs is changing because
Like building maintenance?
Equipment maintenance.
Equipment maintenance?
Like our
all
Tech
the-
1s and Tech 2s.
All those?
Yeah, Tech 1s and Tech
Tech
2s
twos.
for HVAC,
Uh-huh.
the HVAC, and any of the higher skill levels where you have mechanical.
Okay.
So these
Sure,
are
I get
people
it.
with hydraulics, pneumatics,
Yeah.
experience.
HVAC.
You know, they're the jack of all trades that
Okay, all
people
right.
hire.
Thank you. The next page shows you, that one busy page.
Something
the
that
next
it's
page-
impossible to hire right now.
Yeah,
It's challenging, there's no question about it.
yeah.
The next page shows you a 1-month snapshot of that campaign, so it's not quite as busy. You'll see again, a lot of quality of life placement and a lot of quality of life messaging. You'll see in this particular example that we're talking about engineers, so we'll be communicating, going after targeted engineers. And then on the bottom right-hand side, it says investor-sponsored content. And that's what I was talking about a few minutes ago in terms of the private sector companies that want to come up alongside us and help us pay for this initiative. Then they'll also, some of these ads that go out and land in people's phones and so forth around the country and more broadly in the state of Texas, if you will, a lot of those communications will have investor-sponsored content. So if, as an example, Company X says we want to be part of it, then some of this content will have Company X somehow woven into it in terms of what the creative looks like. And a few minutes ago, we talked about the NWACO website, where, all roads lead to Rome in terms of driving individuals to the NWACO website. And if you're a company that comes up alongside us and is involved, has some of that investor-sponsored content, and somebody clicks on that, that'll be where they land first. There'll be a landing page with information about that company, and then beyond that, right behind it will be the landing page for the NWACO website. So there are some added benefits, and they're outlined on the bottom right-hand side of that sheet. Logo link on the NWACO website, digital ads created with job specifics and logo placement. The next slide. Judge, you have a question?
No, I guess, what you're saying is you can, like a sponsor that has significant needs, let's say for engineers, you can customize, to fit their needs as well as for others that are sponsors.
That's correct.
Yeah, so that way you really have an end job identified. So it kind of cuts to the chase, for that person hunting that position.
That's correct. That's absolutely correct. You have Company X that says, here are our needs.
Yeah.
These 5 technicians types or these 5
Right.
job types. And then through the ability to work with our partners and to dial in with the characteristics, that aligns well. So those people are getting communicated to, and then it comes back, in terms of the sponsored content, it comes back to those companies, it comes back to the NWACO website.
Right.
That is correct.
Thank you.
For the
Yes, sir.
creative side of that, if you were looking at, let's say, an engineer that was in the aerospace, the aviation industry, the creative side of that, the creative piece that's going out in the marketplace might have a picture of a rocket or something that would
Right.
entice that kind of engineer to actually want to click on it. So it'll be very curated to match that job position that we're looking for.
Right.
Right.
Like SpaceX probably needs, fuse lighters, you gotta light the fuse.
Right.
So somebody's gotta do it.
That's probably high on the list, Judge.
Okay.
I think that comes with hazard pay.
I don't think that's a professional position, though. That's whoever runs the fastest.
I can help them with that.
Maybe a bit of turnover in that position.
Okay,
as well.
I apologize.
If you look at the next page in your PowerPoint presentation, this walks you through essentially the cost of this initiative. So again, we're talking about a data-driven initiative. We're talking about data mining, creative, placement, measurement, and administration. And then the costs associated with this initiative are around $220,000 annualized. So what we're attempting to do again is to pull together partners that are willing to help capitalize this initiative. And so in front of you, you see that today we're asking the commissioners, we're asking the court to give consideration to a $50,000 investment to help ensure that we have adequate resources to do this at the level that we think we need to be able to do it, to be able to drive a lot of interest into our community, to our employers, and to the NWACO website. So we're looking at the private sector for $50,000. The city of Waco will be talking to the city later today. We're asking them for $50,000. We're asking you folks for $50,000 in support of the initiative. And then the chamber's going to incur probably somewhere in the range of about $70,000 in costs for a total of $220,000. We've talked about on the back end of this, measurement and administration, and that is so important, and that's going to be an important role of the chamber. We want to make sure, obviously, that if we're going to invest these types of dollars, and we're going to take this initiative, that it's a good ROI. We want to be able to see what's happening. And then the chamber is going to be very active in the space of being able to respond to individuals who we're able to drive into the Enwaco website. We want to be, if we're able to identify them, and we should be able to identify those folks, we want to have almost a concierge type service in place to be able to reach out, connect with them, talk to them, better understand what their interests are, connect them with employers, help them understand more about living in our community and so forth. Then there's also one last piece, and I'll stop. One last piece is as part of this initiative is, so one of the vendors, one of the companies we're working with who's doing things like this nationally is able to give us information down to the very individual and a lot of information specific to those individuals. We can purchase from them. So if we go to them and we say, these types of engineers, they can provide to us a database, and we can take that and we can drop that into Salesforce, and then we can use that to undertake a quote-unquote drip campaign or a communications effort with those individuals, and also be able to provide the same level of services to them as concierge type of service. Again, trying to get them connected into our marketplace, into our community, and into our employers. So that's the essence of the initiative, and that's a snapshot of the costs.
Curious.
Oh,
question
go
very
ahead.
quick, because there's so much precision involved in this
There is.
with who you're targeting. So do these people mine data from like LinkedIn, or is that how they go to other professional websites? They just mine that data and then they bundle it and make it available to you? Is that?
That's it. That's
Yep.
correct. Yeah.
So what will happen is, we'll create a profile of criteria that we're looking for. So we're looking for people that have this certain degree or have this certain skill set. They may have a certain certification. And we will also look for people that have a commonality to Texas. So we want people that are either from Texas, maybe they're living out of state, that they went to school in Texas, and this is an opportunity for them to come back into the area. So those are the things. And then they've also been able to kind of do and add another layer of individuals that are also interested in relocating. So that's the other part. That's really crucial to this is there's no point in just blasting out information to a general audience that may or may not have an interest in moving. You have to, if you can get to the people that already are doing home searches and looking for some relocation opportunities, those are the people that it's already top of mind for them. So now we need to put this region in front of them and the job opportunities and the quality of life in front of them as an opportunity to connect into a new home.
Gonna send it to California, huh?
I think that might be
People
in our
looking to relocate?
targeted area, for
Okay,
sure.
yeah, yeah. Big target. How will you measure? Will it be hits, success stories? How will the measurement take place?
Take a shot at it.
All of the above.
All the above.
All of the above?
Yeah,
Okay,
so we
number of
will,
hits on the website?
absolutely, we'll be able to get data on in a real-time basis. For the purposes of analytics, it takes about, the first 3 months are going to be critical for us to gather the information to see how successful it is. Because this is data-driven, it will also allow us to see which methodologies have been most successful, and perhaps we need to pivot and push more dollars into certain areas and pull back dollars in other areas. So the idea is that it will flex based off of how people are responding to the campaign. But we will certainly, part of the concierge service, the end goal is to get people to make the commitment and move here and take a job with one of our existing employers. And that becomes the success story at the end of the day. So, yeah.
Obviously, that's the most valuable bit of information or measurement would be people who actually make the move and commit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And how many entities did you have that you made a presentation to in the industry?
8.
7 or 8.
7 or 8.
Yesterday.
I think the feedback from them is gonna give us a lot of direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's who I'm gonna ask if it works.
It absolutely, is. You're right, Judge.
Yeah.
We got
Is
some
this-
really good feedback yesterday.
Good. Is this being used widely right now, or is this a cutting edge?
I'd say that we're at the forefront.
Good.
I think so.
One of the partners that we're looking at has a really good success story in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They've been working with Tulsa for quite a while, and they were featured on Good Morning America. So there's definitely some success stories with one of our partners.
Right. But they're using it from a remote worker attraction perspective. So that's the difference, is that we're trying to attract people into the community to go to work for an existing employer, not for people that are working and can work anywhere in the world to relocate into the community. That there is a different component to that will come along with some of our other partners within the community, but that's not what our target is with this campaign.
Right. I see where the city and the county get this started, but we really work hard to get those partners to move us out of the funding piece at some point in time, in a reasonable length of time. Because if it works, they're gonna be standing in line to do that. Especially when you're customizing exactly what they need for their employment. So, just so everybody understands, that's my position, that I think it's a great idea. But I do think that, you know, we're already partners with you on many other initiatives, and that this is one that is a good one, and we think we get it started. But, you know, from my position, I'd see us kind of phasing back out of this. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Makes sense, absolutely.
And that's my, I don't know, the rest of the court, but,
If we stand it up and we're successful, I agree, Judge. The private sector will step in.
yeah.
Again, yeah, great idea, incredible, and I love the precision of this. I love how you're able to, instead of throwing a blanket over everything, you can target. I think that makes a huge difference.
Right.
To kind of piggyback on the judge's sentiment, I think it sounds like a good tool. I'll tell you what scares me about it. And it is the fact that you have two public partners that you're asking investment for. And the whole thing about WMDEC, the Waco McLennan County Economic Development Corporation, and those employers, what drew me to that program is that we're taking our citizens' tax dollars and we're helping bring in employers that are going to bring them wages that can, you know, open the American dream to them. So it's just sort of a win-win. This is taking public dollars, and I'm actually bringing in competitors to the people that are already here. So that's what scares me about this program, is that you all are purposely looking outside of McLennan County and cherry picking positions and specifying where these people will work, but you're asking our taxpayers to help do that, to help bring in their competition. So that scares me about it. It would be a little different for me if we were like bringing in scientists. And I say that, you know, we were bringing in a profession that's just really hard to get those guys to come to Waco. And I worked as a college temp at M&M Mars. And so I understand the technicians and the level of industrial positions that you want to bring in. I'm just afraid, so that's why the judge kind of gives me a little comfort if it's going to be short term. But my position, if it's going to be at all, how do we look at the people in McLennan County and say this is something that's good for you for us to spend your money on?
Yes, ma'am.
May I
Yeah,
take a
absolutely.
shot at that? Great question, really important question, and it's been a point of conversation amongst us as we've worked on this. The last thing that we would want to do is to launch an initiative that comes at the expense of our workers here in our backyard. That is the last thing that we'd want to do, Commissioner. So here's the challenge that we have in front of us. And when we first started the conversation, we talked about we have to do do multiple things at the same time in order to meet the needs of our employers. Just yesterday, and we hear this on a regular basis, but just yesterday, we had an employer talking to us, and they were talking about the constraints that they have in their facility right now in terms of being able to produce because they cannot get the workers that they need. And so the risk that we run is if we're not able to meet the needs of our employers, they start to do certain things. They start to look at other facilities within their chain, within their company, that may be able to meet their demand and their needs. They start to rethink expansion decisions. And as we're trying to attract new business and industry into our community, it's the same conversation that unfolds in real time with those companies. That's the risk we have. So we don't want this to come at the expense of. That's the last thing that we want to do. But we want to make sure there's an adequate supply so it doesn't start to spill over and start impacting our ability to grow our economy, to diversify our economy, to keep our companies here and thriving. And so that's one of the challenges that we have, and that is a real-time issue that they're dealing with.
Okay, and then a second, I guess, concern is if I were looking at this website and I was really excited about what they're doing out there in McGregor, and that's kind of where I want to go, what makes me look at in Waco?
In terms of the campaign,
In terms of the location, yes. If I'm a person out here, say I'm an engineer or something like that, and I'm really excited about what they're doing out in McGregor, and what makes me come to this website? Because nothing about this website says the greater McLennan County area. This tells me what's all cool about Waco.
Well, I would say
Okay.
Waco has brand recognition. And that's what's going to, it has much more name recognition than other parts of McLennan County. And that's, from a marketing perspective, you have to go with the thing that's going to pique somebody's interest. When we talk about within the community, it is definitely talking about the greater Waco area. It's not just focusing in on downtown Waco or city of Waco. It is a much broader conversation.
But if I'm from Arizona, Wyoming, Colorado, you're saying you're trying to get people who are not here to
Yes.
look at this area.
The likelihood that somebody from Arizona has heard of Waco
That's hypothetical.
is probably more than if they've heard of Elmont. Just being honest there.
I think in my example, I use McGregor.
Yeah.
And I say that because I'm sure that the science project is out there.
Sure, but if somebody's
Not
interested.
project, I'm sure
is-
that the science industry, the
Yes, ma'am.
budding science industry is out there. And I guess my question to get to the crux of it is, in this campaign, how do you draw in people who want to work at industry all over McLennan County?
That's where the job section comes into play, because there are employers across McLennan County that are already in our WacoTXJobs.com that will transition over into the In Waco Jobs portion of the site. So when they go in there, they can look at their specific skill set, or they can look at a specific industry. If they're interested in aerospace or aviation, they can put that in there. And all the employers that have job postings in those skills in that industry will pop up for them. And those are definitely across McLennan County.
Also, I would just add on page, I think it's 4 of the presentation, you'll see that the different targeted sectors are highlighted. Those targeted sectors, once you hover over, for example, up in the top right-hand corner, aviation, aerospace, and defense, you're gonna see those companies listed. And so if you're doing a search for it, the likeliness that you'll end up on this page, especially with the amount of target keywords we're going to be putting into it and the funding behind the marketing efforts, it's likely that they'll land here anyways. And the first thing about the exclusion of the locals for these positions, there's no exclusion for us are targeting people even that are here that may not know what jobs are here. So if they've got those certifications and those degrees, the likeliness that that's going to pop up on their cell phone or scroll while they're on Facebook, they're probably still going to be a part of that. Even though they are here, if they have all the other criteria, like they went to school here and they have the degrees and the certifications, it's likely that they'll still get the same marketing message that somebody in Illinois.
I would be interested in knowing what the private partners think about that finite focus in Waco. I just would be interested in knowing what the private partners thought.
We didn't hear any pushback from them yesterday when we presented it to them. They were glad to have a centralized location where they could use in their recruitment efforts.
I guess as we go on, I would just like to, I know it would be a concern with me because it's so finite, and I would just like to hear as the program goes on what they say.
And Commissioner, I want to make sure that we're being clear on this side. All of our employers in those sectors will be part of the NWACO website. It won't be exclusive. It won't be limited to just those who make a decision to come up and help to invest. They may get a landing page if their sponsored content appears and is clicked onto, if you will. But when you get to the NWACO website, all of our employers in all of those sectors are going to be present. So somebody that's looking at our marketplace, they'll be able to see every one of our employers in the aerospace industry. So it won't be limiting. We're not going to make this limited. All of our employers are going to be able to benefit from this initiative. And the NWACO website is also connected into the chamber website. So there's connectivity there as well. But this is not going to be limiting. All of our employers are going to have a presence on the NWACO website.
I think what, this is Leslie, I'm gonna say, I think what is so unique about the chamber's name is that it's Greater Waco. So it gives you a focus out. I just would be interested to see as we move forward.
Yes, ma'am. And we'll make sure. We all want to see that together.
Maybe in light of what she's asking as well, is you guys just chose these to begin, these professions. It can expand to whatever profession.
Correct.
But the need is,
What we're hearing from employers is these are the top 3 most needed currently. But that doesn't mean that we won't expand into other areas too. I mean, there are professional occupations that are also needed into the area. And so we do a level of recruitment from that perspective. Production workers are another area that we've heard a lot of feedback yesterday on a need. So that's another area that we would look at. So it can be expanded, but for the purpose of getting it launched and getting activity going and be able to do a proof of concept, these were the top 3 that we identified.
Matt spoke to something that was in my mind already when you were addressing it, Matt, and you've been phenomenally successful in attracting business industry here. If we can't supply the professionals that they need to sustain and grow, they'll leave. Bottom line, they'll leave. They'll go somewhere where they can find those people, and then we will lose all of the other positions that we have and people who are employed. And so I think it's incumbent upon us to figure out a way to reach their needs or to meet their needs, and I think this is a great start. And I think if it's measurable and we can see how successful it is, tweak it as we need to go. But, you know, in my lifetime, and that's quite a few years, all right, I've not seen as many help needed now hiring signs as there are all over Waco. And they haven't been here just for a couple of days or weeks. They've been here for a while. And so it's obvious that our employers are hunting, they're not finding. So I think this is a way to help them find. I hope it is.
And I think you're right. I think that risk is there. I think it exists. And the last part of your comment was really powerfully underscored yesterday when we met with those 7 or 8 company representatives, and they're all saying the same thing. And again, this is a component of an overall strategy. I think we have to look at all different sorts of strategies as a community because the need is that great. So we have to look at remote workers. We have to continue to be very focused on our existing workforce, and we have to upskill them. do everything we can to help those folks be able to go into these companies and be successful. And we have to look externally too, or to your point, Commissioner, we're gonna face some pretty strong headwinds.
And how do you determine raising up the skill level, upskill our people? That's not something that's gonna happen overnight, but these companies are looking for something overnight. They don't need to wait 1 to 2 to 3 years for skill levels to improve, which I know that may be exaggeration, it may be 6 months, something like that, but they need help now.
Some of these companies, we're hearing, they're not saying, we have 10 openings. They're saying, we have 100 openings, right? And that theme exists out there broadly too.
I have a quick question. When I first heard of this, I thought our commit was only going to be $33,000. So I guess y'all just
Our notes are
finalized.
wrong, they should have been changed, but it's 50.
Okay, well, this is the latest set of notes.
Yeah, and
So-
that's my point, we didn't change it, our fault. But your question is, why did it go from 33 to 50?
Yeah, in a week.
In order for, we want to maximize the opportunity for success with this. You know, we could come out and we could be tepid, and then a year from now, we could be looking at each other and saying, you know, that didn't work as well as we had hoped. And we don't want to have that conversation for lack of resources. And the reality is, when you look at our partners and you look at the costs involved for us to be able to get the information that we need, to be able to be very targeted in our approach, I mean, that is not inexpensive. One data set from one partner is $10,000.
Sure, data's expensive.
It's very expensive, Commissioner. So I think it was us being a little bit more honest with ourselves and a real commitment to come out aggressive and make this thing work, if at all possible. I mean, this is, to the judge's point of a few minutes ago, this is our one opportunity for us all collectively to kind of take this demonstration project and see how it works, how well it works. And if we can true it up and make it successful, then, you know, carry it forward and get the private sector to carry it.
And just to be clear, this is a year-to-year commitment.
Yes, sir.
That's correct.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Okay, under item F2G, that number needs to change to a McLennan County Commissioner Court.
And is
for-
there a contract right now?
With the chamber or?
Is this a part of our current contract, or is it gonna be a new contract?
It would be additional agreement.
And Judge and Commissioner, we can, if the court votes to move forward, it'll take a budget amendment anyway. And so on that next agenda, we can have an agreement alongside of it.
I would make a motion to approve the request for $50,000 on the county's part to fund the NWACO website.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No other discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Judge Felton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Pass. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
We
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
folks very much.
Thank you.
Okay, going to item H4. Under H4 is authorization of indigent care affiliation agreement with Ascension Seton and Ascension Providence on behalf of affiliated hospitals, which are Ascension's Providence, Ascension Seton, Hayes, Ascension Seton Northeast, Ascension Williamson, Ascension Seton Medical Center in Austin, Ascension Seton Edgar B. Davis, and there are a few others. So who's going to speak to this? Is anybody here to speak to it?
Judge, I believe we have Robin Daniel here to speak on this. It's an updated affiliation agreement.
Okay, is she on Zoom?
Robin? I think so.
I'm here.
Okay.
Good morning, Judge, and good morning, everybody. Thank you for having us. My name is Robin Daniel, and I represent Adelanto Healthcare Ventures, and our company helps hospitals, specifically the ones in your area, Hillcrest Baptist, as well as Ascension Providence, access federal funding to pay for the care that they provide to indigent patients and uninsured or underinsured patients in your community. The affiliation agreement is required for all hospitals. Every hospital is required to have an affiliation agreement on file with Health and Human Services. In Texas, in order for the county to submit funds on their behalf. And really, an affiliation agreement is required to register that hospital to receive funds for these programs from the state. So Ascension has as you can see, this affiliation agreement that they've had on file with you guys for years now. And what they are doing, they're just requesting to update this affiliation agreement to include one of their newest facilities. And that is their Seton Bastrop facility. So they would just be updating the agreement to add in the new facility. Happy to answer any questions that the court may have.
So we previously have this agreement in place with these other listed hospitals?
Yes, that is correct.
So we're just, okay, that explains it.
Really, it's just an agreement with Ascension in whole, correct?
And we have Geronimo Rodriguez here with Ascension that can also answer any questions that you might have.
Judge, thank you so much. We are asking for adding Ascension Seton Bastrop as we continue to grow in our region. That's really the hospital that's being added to this affiliation agreement. You all have been gracious in the past to have affiliated all of our healthcare systems. As you know, we're a system and every piece helps support the others, including what we have at Ascension Providence as well.
Very good. Yeah, it's good. Motion to approve the indigent care affiliation agreement.
Second.
Have a motion, second, any other discussion? No other discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, pass. I'd like to go to item M4. This is City of McGregor Tax Increment Investment Zone. Number one, presentation overview of the tax increment program and financing plan. And we have Patty Joyner. Good morning. We've got Craig Farmer here, and we've got Andrew here.
Good morning, Judge,
Morning.
Commissioners.
All right.
All right, as Judge, Commissioners, good morning. As mentioned, my name is Craig Farmer. I'm part of the team on this important project. Knutson Joyner LLC Planning. Our financial advisors are Jim Sabonis and Boyd London. They've done a number of tours around the country. The legal advisors, McCall Parkhurst, plus the city attorney, Charles Olson, is involved in the team. The Waco Chamber, especially Chris Collins, is heavily involved, including doing the market studies for the prospects for these projects. And then Walker Partners Engineering have been on the project side of helping us develop that. Next slide, please. So in 2019, the TERS number one, McGregor TERS number one, was actually created. And there were ordinances that established it. It had a 1,600-acre boundary. They established the TERS Board of Directors. All of this is dictated by the state statutes in the tax code, 311. The final plan was not adopted, but there was a preliminary project and financing plan at that point in time. And of course, there was no interlocal agreements presented to the other jurisdictions. COVID hit, other things happened. So we had about a 1.5 year hiatus. And next slide, please. The TERS board was finally created about 2 months ago, and there's 11 members. As you can see, the chair, Jim Lilly, Terry Sloan's vice chair, and John Hudson's the secretary from the EDC. The county, it's the judge, and the last meeting I was at, there's an alternate, Commissioner Perry is there. And so you have representation on the board. Also, the two legislators, the senator and the representative for this area, are ex officio members, and they're still pending. They're going to let us know. Again, this TERS board is set up by statute, and we have to follow it pretty precisely. Next slide, please. So the actions of the board of directors up to this point, there was a boundary amendment, and I'll talk about that in a moment. They also recommended adding 10 years to the term of this TERS, so it's what's called a 40-year TERS. When you do bond issues, you know, they're 20 to 25, 30-year bond issues, and we expect to have multiple bond issues over the project. So this allows for financing for up to 40 years. On October the 26th, the TERS board recommended the final project and financing plan, including the addition of 3 acres. It was a minor addition, but we had to add to it. So last night, next slide, please. The City Council of McGregor, they adopted the final project and financing plan. And you've received preliminary copies of these documents, but the final one with this document will be probably sent out today. And in the project plan, next slide, please. There's a discussion about what a TERS is for members of the audience. It's an important tool in Texas that a lot of governments use to finance public infrastructure. And it's a zone, tax increment reinvestment zone, so it's a defined area by statute. And it's to promote development without negatively impacting existing taxpayers. Next slide, please. And basically the way it works is you take an area that's underperforming or blighted and needs a lot of public infrastructure. In this particular case, it's the old Naval Weapons Industrial Plant in McGregor, Texas. Doesn't have roads, doesn't have sewer to a lot. There's some roads, but it needs a lot more roads for industrial use. Sewer, water, numerous infrastructure issues. We'll talk in a minute about the size of the bond issue, but you've got a town that's declined from, I guess, about 8,000 to a little over 5,000 population, and there's no way a community that small can chin a project this big. I think everybody knows about the SpaceX project and what's going on out there. We'll get into that. The way it works is you take what's called the increment, and it's that area in the triangle up there, and this is the real property tax, okay? That's an increment. Your base year and the existing base value of that industrial district is about $57 million. And all the participating jurisdictions always get the taxes on the $57 million of value. That doesn't go away. But the incremental taxes, real property taxes, are actually dedicated to paying financing costs for public improvements. So it's a catch-22. Without the public improvements, you don't get the private improvements, but without the private improvements, you don't get the public improvements. So it's a what you call a performance-based district. The better it performs, the more money is to pay for the infrastructure. 2 key points. One is everybody pays their taxes. There's no, in a TERS, everybody pays their property taxes, number one. Number 2, the property taxes can only be used for the public improvements, okay, so it doesn't go into other things. Now, the proposal that you will be getting in an interlocal agreement is 90% participation by partners, but it's important to point out that 10% of the real property is still retained by the taxing jurisdictions, and 100% of the personal property is retained by the taxes from that value. And that can add up to about 1.5 to 2 times, depending on the industry, 2 times what the real property values are. So when we say 90%, the reality is it could be somewhere between 35 and 40% of the overall tax package is used to build, again, public improvements. But for those public improvements, you wouldn't have those additional taxes, and that's the key to that last part of this deal, is once the 40 years is up, all those taxes, 100% of everything is going to the taxing jurisdictions, and they probably wouldn't have been there or have been delayed substantially without the benefit of this increment reinvestment zone. That's how it works. It's proposed to be 40 years. 2061 would be the end of it. Next slide, please. So the McGregor Industrial Park, we've talked about it. There's a portion of it that's in an adjacent county that is not included in the TERS district. So the district proposed is entirely in McLennan County, and it's entirely in the city of McGregor. Next slide, please. It originally was 1,900 acres. I'm sorry, 1,600 acres, and that did not include some of the SpaceX properties and also areas that were designated recently as what's called a super park and a mega site. And again, this was done through the city of McGregor, the EDC, and the Waco EDC help. These are designations that basically pre-qualify you for a lot of proposals and things around the country, and it lifts you up to a much higher playing field as far as being suitable for proposals. Next slide, please. So this is the actual industrial park. The final acreage is 8,102 acres. They've brought in some adjacent roadways, so they'll be able to use TERS money to improve those roadways also. Next slide, please.
Excuse me, the 8,182 acres is not included in those other two.
Back up, please. Sorry. This is the new TERS boundary, the area in color inside the dark boundary. Yes, sir.
All right, go back one more slide.
Go back one more slide. Yes, sir. Those areas are within the 8,182 acres.
That was my question. Thank you.
And all of the SpaceX properties are within that 8,182 acres. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Next slide, please. Next slide. So in the final plan and also in the preliminaries we've sent out, Hilltop Securities did a real detailed schedule of how all these investments work, how the tax values work, et cetera, et cetera. Next slide, please. So this one still says 8,179 acres. As of last night, it's 3 more acres, so it's right away. So we determined that the actual percentage of land developable is about 70% if you exclude detention ponds, roadways, right-of-ways, other things that are undevelopable. That's a pretty reasonable number. So we said the net acreage for development's about 5,700 acres. We have 3 projects in the mill that are pretty certain. One of them will be coming up with a developer agreement pretty quickly. Those 3 projects add up to about 901 acres that we know are going to be developing. So the acreage available for future development is 4,824 acres. We took a conservative number, and over the 40 years, we projected a little over 1,500 acres would actually be developed, and that's only about 30% of it. So all the schedules are based on about 30% actually being developed. It could be 60%. So these schedules are set up so they can increase as needed. Next slide, please. So of the TERS projects, the 901 acres will need about $15 million of financing in order to get those public improvements built. Our schedule laid out, as we've laid it out with those projects and plus some additional growth in the TERS, will pay for an additional $30 million of projects over the 40 years for a total of about $46 million. Now, we took the entire developable acreage and using a factor of $70,000 an acre for infrastructure, we've determined that overall we're going to need about $122 million of financing to develop everything to build out perfectly. Okay. The additional project costs then are about $76 million, or 62%, still needs to be financed for the additional development. But we can pay for what we anticipate will be about 30% of the public improvements to develop about 30% of the property. So those are just numbers. Next slide, please. So this is just a real quick summary. The existing base value is about $57 million, and everybody keeps getting that, all the taxing jurisdictions. The total the total tax valuation we're projecting of development of about 30% of the 8,000 acres is a little over $450 million, almost $500 million, and that's a conservative estimate of what can grow. Next slide, please. So the participating taxing jurisdictions, the city of McGregor will have the primary number. 49% of the money for pay the financing will be from them. 38% would be McLennan County, and 13% would be from the community college district. School districts up until 1999 used to be able to participate, but it was diverting money from Robin Hood, so this legislature eliminated them. We're still considering them to be partners, as well as the two economic development corporations in these projects. So we feel like we actually have 6 partners in this, that includes 3 taxing jurisdictions. So the tax rate at 90% of the 3 participating jurisdictions would be a little over, what is that? $1 per 100, or how does that work? How would
So
you do that?
roughly on a dollar tax rate, that's about $1,000 per $1 million in investment, because the tax rates are based on a per $100 assessed valuation.
Next slide, please. Okay, so they're talking about the first issue would be a certificates of obligation for about $15.7 million, and future ones. So the total debt and obligations would be $46 million. With interest and everything else over the life of it, it approaches $100 million to pay for $46 million with financing costs and everything, interest. And the TERS should generate more than enough to cover that cost. It's a very conservative number, so there should be excess money left in addition to cover that $46 million over the 40 years. And we anticipate the growth will be faster than that, and there'll be more tax value, and we can pay for additional infrastructure. I think that's the last slide. Next slide. Yeah, good guess. So again, we're showing the 6 partners across the bottom of it. Everybody has been very 100% involved in this, making sure it works. The next step is the actual interlocal agreements. So there's 3 actually financing partners. One would be the college district, and one is y'all. This presentation is required by statute, but of course we want to get with you anyway and go through this. We'll be glad to have as many meetings as we need with your staff and your attorneys and your financial advisors. Bottom line, though, is we'll need to develop what's called an interlocal agreement and come back to you with an agreement under conditions. I believe the December 7th, your meeting December 7th. And in that agreement, it'll list what happens if somebody deviates from it. They can't expand the boundary. They really can't expand the project itself without coming back to each of the taxing jurisdictions. So I guess that summarizes it. We're glad to answer any questions.
All right, any questions? Anyone have?
I have a comment, though. I think it's interesting, the last 2 presentations we've had 10 years ago, we wouldn't be having these because we weren't having the growth.
Yeah, that's
We
right.
weren't having the need for these type, the TERS is in the website. So
I meant to
this
point
is
out their
exciting.
presentation was great introducing ours. So, and by the way, the community college, we discussed with them in their presentation that SpaceX and others could have some programs, some training, workforce training programs and things.
Well, I think with as much available property as there is out there, that the potential's great, but without something like the TERS, it would be strung out over such a long period of time.
Or not happen.
Or not have it at all, or it'd be a lesser version because you wouldn't put as much infrastructure in those things. And, we're a direct beneficiary to a lot of that goes on in McGregor. And so we look forward to seeing the interlocal agreement, and we'll, as quick as we can get that, Dustin, if y'all move forward on that so we can get it to the commissioners. They've got time to review it and study it before the.
And Mr. Evans is here too, the city manager, so.
I
either-
recognize him.
Either one of them, they can get us the questions or the information we need to deal with. So, thank you.
All right, thank y'all.
We need to accept the presentation for recording according to our,
Yes, sir.
okay. Move to accept presentation for recording purposes.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass. All right, I'd like to go to, item M4, wait, excuse me, I'm sorry, to, under, item K, is that it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, under item K is grants and grants proposals, regarding U.S. Department of Treasury, coronavirus local fiscal recovery fund, American Rescue Plan. Dustin, you want to pick up the specific point of discussion?
Yes, sir. So Judge, under K1A, it's authorization of American Rescue Plan budget adjustment. And Francis, I believe, need a motion to defer on this. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Sorry. Yes, if we can defer that one, please, today.
Okay, is there a motion to defer?
So moved.
Second?
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass.
K2 is regarding U.S. Department of Treasury Emergency Rental Assistance Program, authorization of reimbursement requests, reports from the city of Waco. In your packet, there's billing from the city of Waco totaling $307,265.78. This is for the Emergency Rental Assistance Program during the month of September. Also in the packet are reports from the city for the weeks ending October 29th and then into November. And did want to make the court aware, you may have already seen the article, that after last court session, we had received a potential reallocation notice from the Treasury Department on the ERA1 spending. When we got it, Francis, Mike, and I began working with Dorothy at EOAC and also with the city of Waco and put together a program improvement plan that had to be submitted yesterday. And so Francis was able to get that submitted yesterday, and we'll have that, we'll send it out to y'all individually, and then we'll have it on next agenda's recording so you can see it as well. But we were able to work with EOAC and Waco and get that submitted. And just as a reminder that ERA1 transitioned from the city of Waco to EOAC at the end of October.
Well then, Dustin, my question would be, at what point does the billing from Waco transition out? I mean, where does that move over entirely so that all we'll see is reports from EOAC?
So we should, I'm guessing, and Francis may can correct me, that one was for, the one in the agenda today was for the month of September. So anticipating one for the month of October, and then just any closeout. The cases that were in there, the city's pipeline on ERA1 have now transitioned over to EOAC. So it could just be one more commissioner, or there could be a couple, just depending on how they bill it out. But their services stopped on 10/31.
Yes, and we did just receive the October billing, so that will be on the next agenda. But with admin cost included, it was right under $250,000. So like Dustin said, you know, that will be for October, which was their last month. But like he said, there may be some smaller amounts that fall out after the fact.
Okay, thank you.
On that October billing, how much is admin costs and how much was program relief?
Sure. So 239,000, right over 239,000 was for assistance, and then right over $4,000 was admin cost.
Okay, I called Dustin this morning in light of the article that is in the Waco Tribune Herald this morning that says counties unspent rent aid funds at risk. And I talked with Dustin at length, and then I talked to Constable Strickland and Constable Johnson. And in those conversations, I just want you all to hear some of the points that the constables made to me, because what I am thinking may help us in light of the fact that we have funds that we don't seem to be able to get moved into the hands of people who need it. However, we're continuing with the conclusion of the moratorium, eviction moratorium, to evict people, because evictions are back in place. If those two gentlemen would come forward. But my thought is, what is it that we're not seeing? I think we're trying to get everything right, but what is it that we're not seeing? The process starts with the filings of evictions in our JP courts, and it ends with the orders going to the constables to evict people. But somewhere in there, we have, I'll just say, to be careful, about $11 million still here for assistance. In the article, there's a gentleman that was standing in line at EOAC who did not know about the county's program until this past week. This is a program that we've been administering for over a year now. So my question to them was, what can we do so that we don't see headlines
Well,
like this?
You are aware that we reached out to every JP in the county for their assistance.
We
and for their
did,
referrals.
but I'm
Yes.
thinking it's gonna take a work session, because I understand that although we did extend it, but everybody's kind of doing their own shop.
So in the meantime, though, and I'm a little disappointed, to be quite honest, in how this is all rolled out, because in a short period of time, over $1 million, right at $1.4 million of ERA2 funds have been expended. So there is no problem with people getting money, and they are reaching out and going out into the community. The ERA1 funds is a different story, and I know there may be those out there that think we asked for it, and we didn't. Bradley Ford made it very clear that if we took two, they would prefer not to handle one. So there is going to be a transition piece and a time piece in that, and I think everybody, communication is key and working through that, but no one's being denied funds.
Oh, no.
And I think, quite honestly, if we look at the end of the day, I think there's a lot of funds out there. So there's going to probably be EOAC got a memorandum of understanding on November the 1st.
Right.
And within 10 days, we're being informed that the funds weren't going out quickly enough. Well, that's 10 days. And I think we have to be reasonable in that they maybe weren't necessarily handed something in that was clean as it needed to be. So there's going to be some catch-up time. There's going to be some expectations that I think we have to work with and deal with, but
Well,
I think we'll
on
get
that
there.
point, I didn't like the way the article, I think, unfairly puts the burden on EOAC, because they did just receive the agreement from us for ERA2, and then they were given ERA1, and that's the one, it's the first round of funding that comes with the deadline. So I think they're doing well under what they were handed. I took a lot of exceptions to the facts in the article. I'm not really sure who she talked to. She's an excellent reporter, but there was just some things in the article that,
And only.
anyway,
You're
but
right.
I had a conversation with these two gentlemen. I think what we're gonna need to do, though, in order to infuse the funding in, because what has happened, the state's money has now exhausted. I understand from Friday before last that the application they have in the queue will exhaust the funding that they have. So they've closed that funding off until possibly January 2022 if they get another round of funding. So right now, the only funding that McLennan County residents have is McLennan County's program that we're administering through EOAC. And when you read the article, there's a strong disconnect in that fact and then getting it to the people that really need it. So in my conversation with the two constables, they did kind of open my eyes to just what are some processes that we could maybe do better, working it through a work session and maybe coming out with some action points at the end of that. But so that you all don't think that I'm just
Possibly
in.
Another point of reference from another office in the county.
Right.
Look forward to hearing from them.
And so, so you all don't think that I just made this up. I asked them to come and just shed some light on this so we can see the relevance of having a work session.
All right, good morning.
How you doing? Good morning.
Morning.
One thing I've noticed, well, for the last year, I've sent out what I always take on myself to do. I've sent out hundreds of letters to tenants informing them about the money that was there. And a few did call me back and told me they didn't have any luck. So for what reason, I don't know. And
Any luck, what do you mean?
Didn't have any luck getting the
Accessing the funds? Like they went and applied and
Yeah,
they didn't
they went,
get it?
some of them went on the internet, but everybody don't have the internet. You know, and then when I see one other thing that kind of concerns me, you have managers at these apartments. They know, it's one manager named Miss Jones. She's at on 2525 East Lakeshore Drive. Miss Jones, when you go in there for information about tenants, she does not have to look on her computer. And that's a bigger complex. Miss Jones would tell you who live over here, who live over there. And I told her, Miss Jones, I would like to take you to Vegas with me. If you got that kind of memory. But those managers, my point of view, I think they ought to be contacted and asked, who needs this help? Who needs that help? And this manager's like that. They can tell you what's going on with those apartments. But right now, it was an influx of apartment managers coming in. Now it's switched to mom and pop real landlords in the last
Individuals.
couple of weeks. And they're coming in now. So, but the reason I do the mailing is because I'd rather help somebody stay in an apartment than put them out.
That's right.
Because right now, when you put people out, then they move with relatives. When they move with grandma, uncles, and aunties. They was used to having 1 or 2 people in the house, then all of a sudden you got 10 people in the house. And that does not help. So, but a lot of people now, they're moving out, and then we go to some of these apartments, they have basically left everything there. I don't know how they do it, but they come back, leave the furniture there, leave everything there. And I'm figuring out why are they doing this. And another thing we do is we have contact with code enforcement. And someone's left, and then as soon as we do eviction and everything's on the curb, we call code enforcement. Say, hey, code enforcement, we were at such address. So, and that'll help the process of cleaning all that stuff up that's left. So, but we've been doing that for quite a time now. And we do cooperate with the city. Because a lot of times I get phone calls, say, hey, I saw your deputies over such place, I was over there. Why is all this junk over here? And right now, a lot of people are dealing with unsanitary conditions. You go in there and you see roaches everywhere, bed bugs everywhere. And it's just pitiful, really. And right now, in the next week or two, I'll be in the process of distributing booklets from the state of Texas on tenants' rights. And I don't know how many hundreds I'm gonna try to get out. And
Do you give them to the apartment managers or to the actual tenants?
it's printed for the tenants, basically.
Yeah, but who do you give them to?
The tenants.
The tenants,
Yeah.
okay.
And-
Would that be an opportunity to give this information to them?
Yes, And, but we always do it. This past year or more, we'll distribute over 10,000 masks out of my office and sanitizing stuff. Every time one of my deputies go to this apartment complex, we're gonna leave some masks. It's sometimes it come in 5 or 10 a package. And most of the apartment complexes, they have little clips on the door. Put the mask on the door.
I think communication is key in the contact that we're making with individuals. And I think that it shows us that evictions, since they've lifted the moratorium, are back in effect.
Yeah.
Is that what you're also seeing, Constable Strickland?
I'm seeing things from two sides. One
Okay.
is, as a landlord, I have quite a bit of rental property, and
Okay.
I'm not facing issues collecting rent. Out of 56 units, I've got 3 people that have been unable, and that only happened in August and September, is the first time they've ever come. And the way I found out about the Texas Rent Relief Program was through one of my tenants, because when she realized we were gonna have to evict her, she came and said, hey, I've got help coming, and she knew all about the program. I didn't know anything about the program, but she did, and then 2 other tenants followed her lead and have gotten into the program. The program's pretty slow. It took us 4 months to get her caught up through the Texas Rent Relief. I was completely unaware of the local money, and as far as I know, none of my tenants are aware of any of that. And we'll probably make them aware of it. This does go out in the JP Court here in Precinct 1. This notice goes out with all the eviction papers. And so I think you have a twofold problem. I think one is information getting to the tenants. Sometimes tenants are just ready to move on and they don't want to make a change. It's like Constable Johnson said, that we'll go to apartments and it's full of furniture. They've just packed up and left. You know, I don't know what you do about that, but we do advise the landlords. This goes out to the landlords when they come in to file in the court. They're given a notice about this. So I think that's positive. I think contacting the various apartment managers would be a positive move to. Oh, I'm sorry. You can have that.
I'm current on my rent right now. Well, and
To-
the paper indicated, or at least I got the figure that they were thinking that we were falling short on getting the word out. And I don't know whether that's true or not, but, there's been several articles that have been written by the Tribune that had a great opportunity to get the word out. And that's supposed to be the purpose of writing many of these type articles.
Well, it just shows what little circulation.
Well, and sadly, we're probably talking about a lot of people that don't have the abilities to.
Yeah.
But here's, and I'll offer this up real quickly, because we'd love to do this, but we do reach out, and when I say we at the OAC, Kenesha Johnson is reaching out to apartment managers, but she's not gonna be able to hit them all in just a month or two. But I will make sure that you gentlemen have her personal contact at the OAC, and when you run into that situation, you can call directly to her, and I guarantee you they'll be assisted and taken care of. Because it is a booming program it's overwhelmingly being used at this moment. So we just need to continue that. And again, if you think there's a cog in the communication wheel, that's what we're all about.
I think the other issue you run into here is demand is so high right now. We've run 100% occupancy for 2 years. I mean, and as soon as one person moves, there's somebody waiting in line. And I think the landlords, I mean, they've got such demand. If somebody moves, it's not hurting them. They're moving somebody else in immediately. I don't know whether that's true all over, but for most of Waco and McLennan County, the occupancy rate in apartments is astronomically high.
It's high waiting list.
Well, it almost seems that if they're not getting the information that there's help available until the landlord files on them, that's really after the curve. That's too late. The people need the information well before that time, so we've got to figure out where that comes in. Reading the article, what was our what was our 9% of our money? How much of our
Yes.
money had we?
Less than 10%.
Less than 10%.
9.7.
And the sad thing about it is, at that amount, we're even ahead of a lot of other counties.
Well, I
According to the
think,
article, who have given zero.
So were they
I've
talking
heard-
about ERA one or ERA two?
Yeah, I don't know.
ERA 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, and that got off to a slow start and never really developed into what we had hoped. And to say, to be fair to all involved, it was much more difficult in the first phases to give out because the requirements
Yeah.
were silly. And that's why you're seeing some people said, I tried, and what the city was having to ask them for were birth certificates and things of that nature. Well, we were all closed down. So how were people supposed to get down here and get a copy of their birth certificate so it was almost set up to fail in the initial phases, just because of the regulations.
I think if you were to put some billboards up, I mean, that would be, people see those. Everybody sees those. And if you put them up in Spanish and English and just making notes about what's available, I think you're gonna get a lot more visibility and exposure than we're getting right now, because quite frankly, until my tenant came to me, I didn't know any details about it. I hadn't been an issue, and I think there's a lot of landlords like that.
I would ask to kind of move this forward, that I think if we set up a work session, I think the JPs and the constables would come. I think if we set up a committee, they may cherry pick and might have something else to do. I would like to see them come in and for us to see where are the gaps in the process and take some action steps moving forward so that ERA 1 and ERA 2 can get out of whatever little sludge it's in and move on.
Well, two is not, two is
Yeah,
almost
she's
ahead of
zooming,
schedule.
yeah, she's.
Yeah, two is in good shape.
Facilitating
Right,
that.
one is the one that we all need to focus on, and I'm hopeful that we have the volume. Quite honestly, I'm hopeful we have the volume that's $13 million.
Oh, I believe we do.
so,
I believe we do.
Commissioner, I want to point out one thing, the court, is when we were served eviction papers, it used to be 2 sheets. Now it's a novel. It's that thick. And it'll take an attorney to read it. You serving these papers to a tenant. And it's something that an attorney probably wouldn't understand it. And that's one of the sticking points too. When you serve that many papers to a person,
yeah.
they're not gonna read it, most of them, or they don't know how to interpret it. And that's one of the worst thing about that, when the JP courts, when we're going to serve the papers, and it's that thick. I mean, it's ridiculous to me.
Right.
Are we having court on the 5th?
Judge?
In this month? Go ahead, Mike.
Yes.
I wanted to add a couple things because we have, in the past, we put out brochures that were handed out at the JP courts, but we also had bench signs, and we had wrap signs on the rural transit district and Waco transit district buses, and with information. So I think we tried to do a good job of getting the information out. It's just that ERA 1 is so much more difficult to administer and to qualify for. We have a lot of people that come in and start the paperwork process, but never come back. So it's really a difference. And whoever said that we're ahead of most other counties, we are. I have a very large county in the DFW area that we're ahead of. And so, it's just how you look at it. Now, the transition didn't go as smoothly as we would like to EOAC because the software, which is an absolute necessity for this stuff had not been transferred over. And we have got with the software company and it is in the process of being transferred over to EOAC so they can start actually doing it more efficiently.
Hey, Mike, can EOAC, because they have the funding now, or access to the funding, in the documents themselves, are there any allowable spending that they can use any of that money for advertising or to get the word out, as you said? Is it
Sure,
permissible?
it would be part of the administrative costs, and it's
in our agreement.
the cost isn't very that much. We could, in fact, we could approve even outside of the administrative costs, some of it. But we'd have to be very careful because our administrative costs are capped at 10% on one and 15 on the other, 15 on ERA 2 and 10 on ERA 1. But yeah, we can do more. But you have to have buy-in too. You know, we can't have people come in and because they have to get some records together or they have to put out some effort to go find stuff, just not return. And that's what there was a lot of.
And Jim, that's why we've gone out into the community with scanners and laptops.
Yeah.
So they don't have to do that,
Yeah.
and we can do it for them.
But ERA 2, there aren't as many hoops to jump through for tenants as there was in 1. Is that correct, Mike?
That's true.
That's correct. And I do want to point out in the improvement plan, it asked about obstacles, and an obstacle is honestly the rigid guidelines. There were 206 total applications that were denied just based on the guidelines under the city's watch on ERA 1.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of interest, and a lot of those may be eligible under ERA 2, but that's just kind of what we're facing with the guidelines on ERA 1. We had a lot of interest, but they have to be denied because they don't meet the income level or something tied along with it.
Mike and Dustin, maybe, have we not begin to see those restrictions be lifted little by little? They are trying to make it a more efficient program. Haven't we seen some of those recalled?
No.
Not on
Not
the
on
one?
Not on 1.
Not on 1. ERA 2, they saw some of their mistakes on ERA 1, but I think that they will eventually start, releasing us from some of those restrictions, especially when they start seeing how many different counties are subject to potential reallocation.
That's nationwide.
And that's nationwide.
Yeah.
And it's just like I say, I know of, counties with much larger populations that haven't allocated as much as we have. 1 over 1 million population.
Is there sufficient funding in ERA 2 to meet the needs of our people in McLennan County without 1? Even if 1 went away tomorrow?
Two different
Is
things.
ERA 2?
I personally.
Probably so, but we would like to try to, use as much of the money locally as we can.
Sure, I understand that. But do we want to concentrate our efforts on trying to get people into ERA 1, or do we need to focus on what's easier for them, ERA 2? And if hang the consequences, if ERA 1 money has to go back, but we've got sufficient money for our people and it's easier to qualify them under 2, and we need to focus our efforts on 2?
That may be where we end up, but the reality is right now we'd like to keep ERA one also, because there are people that can meet the requirements of ERA one, and that would save, ERA two money for somebody else.
Sure, I understand
Um,
that. But do,
that-
yeah, okay.
And the deadline for ERA one is much quicker than ERA two anyway. So and Francis can help, it's September of October of 2022 for ERA one, where two is 2024 beyond, I believe.
2025. So yeah, the ERA one, the timeline ends September 30th, 2022. ERA two, September 30th, 2025.
So Commissioner Smith, by its own terms, the ERA one may, go west at the end, of 2022 anyway. We
Right.
just
Well-
try to get as many
Sure.
qualified under it as we can. And if we can't, then we'll still have ERA two through 2025.
Can people double, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm confident in what EOAC is doing now with ERA one. I think there were some challenges that they had going into it, but I'm confident that they're going to be able to administer that funding certainly by September 2022. I think though what we have to give them are everything the tools that we have at our disposal. And that's why I would like to see a more aggressive marketing, with billboards. But I think instead of using this time as a work session, that's why I just started this conversation saying, can we have a work session and come up with some action steps and then move forward, giving EOAC what they need to be more effective?
And Commissioner, what I think we could do in lieu of that, which would speed everything up, is we could take constables over and have a meeting
Okay,
and discuss this and really work on it outside
okay.
of the court, just because we can do it in a more timely manner, and then
Right.
we have a.
All right, why don't Commissioner Miller and Commissioner Perry meet with the constables, and I would add some JPs in there
JPs.
too, because to the issue that Constable Johnson brought up, I'm sure all the paperwork that is delivered is statute driven, but I don't know if there's any way we can reduce that down to some reasonable amount. And for those people that are struggling with it and having problems, where can they go to somebody to really sit down with them and?
Right down here on,
Okay.
on Franklin.
So the constables, need to know that message and.
Right, and that's what I was saying, that they'll both have her personal contact information, because.
So
Okay.
in that meeting, you'll make sure.
Absolutely.
Great,
Okay.
I think that's a great idea. And then, y'all, at the next Commissioners Court meeting, which, on that December meeting, is the 7th, I think, is
Okay.
Tuesday. And, we can.
We'll bring you
I mean,
back an
see if there
updated
needs to
report.
be any court action
Okay.
to bring this along, or did we shore up what we already have and we're in good shape to go forward?
And that meeting would include somebody from EOAC, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that was what I was gonna ask.
Program director.
Mm-hmm.
will Definitely be.
I think that'd be very important.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we appreciate y'all coming in.
Thank you, gentlemen.
What you're
We'll send
seeing
you
on the
the bill.
ground. All right, it is,
Judge, if we could, we do still need to take action on those, the billing
Yeah.
and the reports on K2.
all
Sorry.
right, thank you. All right, under K2, is there a motion to approve that?
So move.
Second.
Have a motion, second, any other discussion? No other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, pass. All right, it's 10:47. Let's be back, let's take a little recess and be back at 10:55.
I'm glad I didn't take the under.
gave me some stuff, but
It is.
he said that this last weekend was a big cedar and ragweed mowed.
Hey, so this guy,
Okay, let's see here.
it's like,
All right, it's a perfect time. Everybody in?
Our instructions.
Let's call the session back in order.
Hey, Judge, real quick, we have somebody in the audience today who has a birthday, by the way. I just thought
Yes,
I'd
we
throw it.
do.
I won't mention who it is, but she's somewhere out there in the audience. And,
I wish I had time to pencil up a proclamation.
we'd approve it.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
All right. Let's go to, under the consent agenda, item Z, recommended pulls are E3A and E3B. Are there any other pulls recommended by the court? If not, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of those two pulls?
So move.
Second.
Have motion second, any other discussion? No other discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, pass. All right, going to E3A, it's an HR matter for Constable Precinct 4. Anna?
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
So Constable Guerrero for Precinct 4, he is requesting approval to appoint and hire a full-time deputy constable into position 1044. This was previously his position, so he's trying to replace himself. And he did follow our employee policies for posting to the public and accepted applications for the required 5 days. And he has confirmed that the person does meet minimum requirements as outlined in the job description, and that he has ensured the applicant meets TCOL standards. So HR recommends approving this appointment of the deputy constable into position 1044. And the person he is attempting to hire is named Lisa Kevel.
Okay, any questions?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion second, any other discussion? No other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, pass. Okay, the other is item E3B, HR matter for maintenance of buildings.
So this item here, and we're trying to help fill positions. The maintenance of building department is requesting the ability to fill a vacancy prior to the exhaustion of vacation time that the exiting employee has. And just to clarify, this employee currently in the park caretaker position in question, it's position number 129. They are moving to a part-time position, and TJ is hoping to have them work concurrently with whoever ends up taking position 129 for training purposes. And so that's why we're putting forward this request to be able to fill prior to the exhaustion of the vacation time.
So the person in that position stays long enough to train the new person coming in, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
And what did you say about part-time? I missed the part about part-time.
The person currently in the park caretaker position, Danny Tate, he's moving to a part-time position. And, but even though he's still technically an employee, him leaving the full-time park caretaker position, it is still required that the paid time off exhaust prior to filling the position, which is why we're requesting court approval to fill the position prior to the exhaustion of that paid time off, the vacation time that's still in the books.
Right.
All right. I would just have one comment, Anna, and because I know our policy says we have to approve any exceptions, and I think we have a policy in place that we don't replace a position until comp time is expended or something that, and we have a tendency to make exceptions. Could you, at some point in time, give us some guidance or recommendations on comp time? I've looked at the amount of comp time we have, and it's pushing probably 17,000 hours across the board, all employees, and I don't know if that's normal or you know, I will certainly not everyone's gonna quit at once and us have to pay up that much comp time or something like that, but to get a handle on it as far as limits or how much you can accrue or whatever, and maybe we already have that, and maybe I just need to be brought up to date on it.
Well, I think it's good to review it. I think you bring up a good point.
It
And
seems
it's a
excessive.
contingent liability for the courts.
It could be.
And and with some management, we might be able to get that down.
That's
but,
what I was hoping for.
Putting a little bit more management on it. And Anna, for a different time, if you could bring a report, maybe it's department head, or whenever you think you can comfortably get it together, kind of show us where we are with those contingent liabilities regarding employee benefits.
Yes, definitely. I can provide figures for us and maybe a more historical manner to see, if our current status is higher than previous years. I'd be happy to do that. For this specific request, this person, their paid time off accruals is vacation time. They do not have comp time, but yes, the concern is still, of course, valid, and I can definitely provide those figures.
Right.
Well, based on that, Judge, I move we approve E3B.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. Just one comment. I think Danny Tate has done a tremendous job out there. He's worked for the county for a long time in many different capacities, from law enforcement to road and bridge. He's a very caring guy. He knows the community out there, which is going to be a real loss to us. And I really appreciate Danny and how he's handled the park deal. And it's a much better place than it was. And so just want to make that statement.
I know we can't replace it, but I hope we can come up with somebody who come close.
Yeah, right. That's our goal. All right. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If no other discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Pass.
Thank you.
All right, Dustin, you want to pick it up?
Yes, sir. So moving on to item F, budget amendments, F1 regarding the FY21 budget. And I'd like to call on Francis.
Thank you. So yes, like you said, starting with F1, these are budget amendments to continue to clean up at fiscal year 21. Of course, we still have invoices that roll in through the end of this month. So starting with F1A, this is General Fund Road and Bridge 3, requesting to increase various line items within their department for end of year invoices and expenditures. The request is to move from another line within the Road and Bridge 3 department, as well as a line item in the countywide Road and Bridge department. F1B, this is general fund for some departments that fall under the sheriff's office. They are specifically the two lines for food service costs at both correctional facilities, both Highway 6 and Jack Harwell. And these amounts needed will finish up to pay the final invoice for the year for both of those facilities. And they're requesting to move from other line items within both of those departments. F1C, this is general fund for Commissioner's Court Department. The request is to move from contingencies into the line item that is used to house the cost for sign language interpretation cost. F1D, this is general fund, countywide department. This budget amendment is needed to clean up a few line items, including autopsies, supplies, and utilities. So these are line items sometimes that it's hard to know exactly where they'll end up until we get the final bills and invoices. But we are requesting to move from another line in that department, which is professional services. And then if you want to take F1 and if we need to discuss more, or if you
All
choose.
right, yeah, okay, I want items F1A through F1D. Are there any additional questions? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Pass. All right, F2.
And then F2 is budget amendments for the current fiscal year 22. So starting with F2A, this is in our permanent improvement fund. The request is to increase a line item that will be used for modifications to our tax office. So they are requesting some glass wall modifications that will create an office space for an employee in their office. F2B, this is general fund maintenance of buildings. Originally, there was a budget for part-time pay, but the request is to increase the part pay line item by moving from contingencies. And this would cover their payroll cost related to custodian part-time positions, as well as Trading House Lake.
Are these positions that have already been created, or are we creating a position with the custodians?
For part-time pay, there's not really specifically, you don't agree to a certain number of positions. It's usually just a set amount of money. And then that, that department manages how many part-time people they need for each of those needs they have for part-time. TJ is on. I know he might be able to speak a little more to his needs there.
Yeah, so Commissioner, the janitorial position is one we created last year and was approved by court. The second half of that, of course, would be the part-time position for out at Trading House Lake, to move Danny into that to begin his kind of cross-training period with the new employee.
Okay.
And to further answer your question, Commissioner Jones, as I said, you usually don't approve a set number of part-time positions for each department, just the budget. But you do, of course, approve the hourly amounts if they differ from the $10 amount. So if nothing further on that one, move into F2C. This is general fund for County Court at Law 3. They are requesting to replace furniture within the courtroom that they will be using. I know there's a lot of detail attached. I think it's the final page of the detail that lists out the furniture. So there appears to be 36 different types of chairs along with the installation and assembly. And then there are also some extra costs needed for some IT-related equipment for that courtroom. And as well, if you have any questions on that one before we move forward.
No questions.
Okay. And then F2D, this is general fund for County Court at Law 2. That judge is asking to replace some furniture as well in his courtroom, specifically 2 bookcases and 10 chairs. And that request is coming from the contingencies line item. F2E, this is an amendment within the permanent improvement fund for the 2019 bond funds. So we are increasing the tower project line item for the bid that you approved on the last agenda for the Road and Bridge 4 tower. So we are increasing that line by the specific amount approved. And then we have a contingencies line in that bond fund that will cover that amendment. But as you see on that bottom section, on the decrease section, that leaves only right under $85,000 of unallocated funds within that bond fund. So I just wanted to give you an update there and highlight that.
All right, if you'll stop right there.
Yes, sir.
Under items, under the F2 category, is there any questions on F2A through F2E? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So move. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Pass. All right, under J2F, under JP Collections, waiting on documentation, I move that we defer. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Pass.
F2H, Information Technology, authorization of purchase from IT Assessment Fund. Lisa?
Hello, good morning.
This
Right.
request is coming from a purchase that IT did on behalf of the indigent healthcare director. She was having issues with her workstation. Multiple attempts were made to troubleshoot issues, and ultimately it was determined that we should upgrade her machine. This decision came after the assessments had been performed for FY22, and a budget amendment was submitted to court and approved for that purchase from her budget in FY21. Unfortunately, that item was not received in time. It was back ordered. It was bumped multiple times. So now that the device has come in, they're wanting to collect payment for that, and it is going to currently be coming out of her FY22 budget, which is not something she anticipated. So at this time, I'm asking if the court might consider allowing us to pay for that out of the IT assessment fund. Given the age of the device and the trouble that she's had, we certainly would have wanted to assess that, if we knew it wasn't going to come in on time.
And
but-
it's $4,851.71. Is that the total?
No, sir, I've got two totals here. So
Okay.
the primary request, so for her portion, that would be $1,419.11.
Okay.
And then the second number I have noted there, which is the $4,851.71.
Right.
Since this consideration was brought to my attention, I know there are many other departments that encountered similar circumstances where technology is needed during the year. Their items were also back ordered. And some of those have been received after September. Others are still pending. If the court, I just wanted to bring your awareness to it in case that same consideration should be given for those orders.
Okay. All right, what's the pleasure?
I'll make a motion to approve the IT director's request to cover the additional costs out of her IT assessment fund.
Second?
All right, I have a motion second. Any other discussion? No other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass.
Under item G, bids, RFPs, RFQs, G1's authorization of bid recommendations, G1A regarding bid 21-015, use 2020 or newer self-propelled broom, Road and Bridge Precinct 3. Ken?
Yes, sir. We received one response on this bid from Bain Machinery out of Fort Worth in the amount of $43,755. Therefore, we recommend that the court grant the award for the Road and Bridge Precinct 3 used 2020 or newer self-propelled broom to Bain Machinery, Fort Worth, in the amount of the $43,755.
Motion to approve purchasing director's recommendation.
Second.
I have a motion second. Any other discussion?
Is that one of those real wide, I mean, we're talking about a big old wide broom?
Self-propelled.
Yeah, I'd like to see one that wasn't self-propelled that wide.
Let's see who could push it.
Wheel drive. There'd be a wheel drive. All right, I have a motion second. Any other discussion? No other discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Pass.
G1B regarding bid 21-016, use 2017 or newer asphalt recycler, soil stabilizer, Road and Bridge Precinct 2. Ken?
Yes, sir. We received two responses on this bid request. We got a bid from TKO Equipment out of Grand Prairie in the amount of $266,600. We also received a bid from Royal Wave Enterprises in the amount of $273,000. We recommend that McLennan County grant the award for the Road and Bridge Precinct 2 used 2017 or newer asphalt recycler soil stabilizer to TKO Equipment Company in the amount of $266,600.
All right, any questions? What's the recommendation of the court?
Move to approve the recommendation from purchasing and to give the award to TKO in the amount of $266,600.
Second.
Have a motion and second, any other discussion? No other discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, passed.
Under item H, contracts and interlocal agreements, H1, authorization of contracts for services. As we discussed in past court sessions, these outside entities that receive county funding, we thought it's best to have agreements in place with these entities that lay out the county purpose they're serving and also has some reporting requirements for the entities. H1A is the Cove Heart of Texas Incorporated. H1B is Greater Waco Sports Commission. This does not change anything with the funding that the court previously approved, and it's included in the budget. It's just simply entering into contracts with both these entities.
All right, any questions?
Motion to approve H1A, H1B.
Second.
Have a motion and second, any other discussion? No other discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, passed.
H2 is authorization of security system agreement with Esquire Fire and Safety for various county buildings. TJ? Oh, TJ, you're on mute. Sorry.
Oh, there I am. Sorry, guys. So this is just our yearly contract with Esquire for our monitoring services for the following buildings. It hadn't changed since last year, so everything's good.
All right, any questions? Not, is there a
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion second, any other discussion? No other discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, pass. Okay,
H3 is authorization of right of entry agreement with Texas Department of Transportation Widening and Rehabilitation Project, Moody OT Block 34, Lot A3. This is on a piece of property that we hold as trustee. This is just the right of entry to allow TxDOT permission to enter that property to conduct environmental investigations and check for any historical or archaeological issues.
Move to approve.
Second.
have a motion and second, any other discussion? No other discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, pass.
H5, authorization of duplicate file detective license agreement with Key Metric Software LLC for network file management for information technology. Lisa?
Thank you. This request is one, we are wanting to purchase a scanning tool to assist us in identifying duplicate files in the network, to help manage that better. And in the, to purchase this, there is not an agreement to sign, but there is an agreement to use. And those that are creating an account have to have the authority to do so on behalf of the overall entity. So therefore, I'm coming to court. The full terms of that agreement have been attached and reviewed by myself and our security and compliance analyst, Dustin Chapman and Kim Bass. And there were no terms that we found unacceptable. So we are just requesting the court's authorization or allowing us to have that authorization to proceed.
All right, is there a motion to approve the agreement with Key Metric Software LLC?
So moved. Second.
Have a motion second, any other discussion? No other discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, pass.
H6, authorization of interlocal cooperative agreement with the city of Galinda for road patching and tree trimming. Commissioner Smith?
Move to defer.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to defer, any discussion? No discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, pass.
Item I, capital improvement, repair and maintenance and construction projects. I1 regarding ADA renovations to MHMR Crisis Center, bid 21-003. Agreement with HCS Incorporated, commercial general contractor, authorization of payment application number 6. TJ?
Yes, so this is payment number 6. It's right in line with where the contractors currently are. Actually, it's a little bit further behind than where they are. They're currently about 90% on the facility, awaiting word back from the structural engineer on his investigation of what's going on underneath the building to make some repairs in the restroom areas. So this is right in line with where they should be, and it's okay to pay.
All right, any questions anyone have? Not, is there a motion to approve pay application?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion second, any other discussion? No other discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, pass.
Item L, department office specific request. L1, information technology, discussion and or action regarding information technology liaisons for county departments. Lisa?
Thank you. I'm coming back to court. This has been deferred a couple of times. I did want to say, because there's been some ongoing concern as to the commitment of this role, I did want to modify that request to take those responsibilities back to what had been discussed in executive session and expressed in Mike Dixon's countywide memo. The other IT initiatives that I had requested could be something maybe considered optional and at up to the discretion of the department head or elected official. And we could instead just schedule those sort of initiatives directly with that administration. I have presented some information to court members late last week that would kind of show what we might present in a meeting. We definitely want to keep that those communications to a minimum. We're suggesting to meet once a month, maybe for about 3 or 4 sessions maybe, and then I expect that should be able to reduce over time the amount of the necessity of those ongoing meetings as everyone becomes more comfortable in that role, and also to maybe come back and evaluate how effective this is for everyone in, say, 6 months. That would get us through the cybersecurity timeline that has been set by the court for March 31st.
Okay. All right, and I've reviewed this as well, and do believe there's some modifications there to accommodate what the court had expressed in the last meeting that we had, and the fact that we're coming back in 6 months to kind of see how it's going. But I do think that cybersecurity training is critical, and a lot of that has to do with how we all take it serious, that it is a big problem. And I think this group thinks it's serious. We need to be sure that the rest of the folks that work for McLennan County do as well. I would make a motion that we approve this program.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Pass.
Under L2, Heart of Texas Fair Exco Event Center, authorization of capital improvement project. Back in August, we approved a project totaling $74,532 out of the $100,000 that we do for capital improvements at the fair. That was to remove the existing fence along Bosque and replace it with a fence matching what's in front of the base. After the fence was pulled down, they noticed the need to replace and also add a couple more RV spots along the fence. The total for that work would be $36,135. That would exceed our $100,000 commitment, bringing that total to $110,667. The fair will cover that additional amount over the $100,000. So we just need approval of the additional amount under the capital improvement project.
All right, any questions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Pass.
L3, County Sheriff, authorization of phone requests. Lisa.
Yes, thank you. This request is coming from the sheriff's office. They are requesting 2 additional phones. One will be needed for a new training clerk position, and the other is being requested for the security officer area in the records building. We do have 1 remaining new phone in our on-hand inventory. We could provide the other out of the used phone inventory that we're maintaining. We have the required licensing, and IT can take care of any networking cabling that needs to be done.
Okay, any questions? If not, is there a motion to approve the phone request?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Pass.
Under M2, discussion regarding healthcare plan audit and related engagement agreement with Messier 42 LLC. Judge recommended to be deferred again.
I make a motion we defer.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Pass.
M3 regarding the McLennan County Group Health Plan. M3A is authorization of financial renewal and terms amendment with United Healthcare Services Incorporated. And M3B is regarding the United Healthcare Insurance Company stop loss excess loss policy, authorization of amendment number 1. Anna?
Thank you, Dustin. So before you, we have the renewal information for United Healthcare for, as Dustin said, for our contract renewal for administrative services and then our stop loss reinsurance. We've highlighted there in the table the changes for the renewal into 2022. Many of the administrative fees are guaranteed for a 3-year time span. We are now wrapping up our first year into the administrative service agreement, and we're moving into year 2 of the agreement. So again, many of the fees are guaranteed, and we are now just highlighting those few fees that can change or are subject to change. The first there for the administrative service agreement with UHC, it's not really a change. They actually failed to bill us the 15 cents per member per month during this first year, and they're just bringing that to our attention. They're not going to retroactively charge us for that, but they do want to let us know to expect that charge into 2022. And this fee that they discovered and are just bringing to our attention for 2022 is related to researching subsidies from drug manufacturers to reduce our pharmacy costs. And so that's what that fee is for. And then there's also an increase to our behavioral health management fee. So it's going from $5.79 to $5.99 per employee per month. Over the year, it's estimated annual cost is $2,653. That is a change there. And then jumping from the administrative service agreement to the stop loss reinsurance renewal. And so there is a renewal rate change, a change to our premium going into 2022, which was forecasted by Randy, our consultant. And the percentage increase is actually lower than what Randy had forecasted. So that is a positive thing. So that increase is from $66.69 that we were being charged this year to an increase of $73.02 per employee per month in the following year. So these changes were reviewed by Randy McGraw and also by our insurance committee. And we do recommend accepting these changes moving into 2022. I can take any questions if there are any.
Any questions anyone have? What's the pleasure of the court?
Motion to approve M3A and B.
Second.
I have a motion, second, any other discussion? No other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, passed.
Thank you.
Under item N, Americans with Disabilities Compliance Project, N1, authorization of professional service invoice, CPNY ADA study report for October. This invoice from CPNY totals $3,084.25 for their October services related to ADA.
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and second, any other discussion? No other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, passed.
Judge, I believe that is all the action items unless I missed something.
Okay. All right, anything else to come before the court today?
Judge, there is a executive session
Oh,
on
that's
security, if that's okay.
Yeah. All right. All right, at this time, I'd like to go into executive session under 551.076 of the Government Code, deliberations regarding security.
Recording in progress.
Scumbag. Okay, let's call court back in session. Is there anything else to come before the court today? If not, it's 11:56, I stand adjourned.